What's up, YouTube? Today we're going to be looking at a team that I used to hit Legend. I believe it was last season and the team before. It's a slight variation of that team. The team previously was Steelix, Annihilate, JUMPLUFF, but now with the new buff to Dusclops, I decided I may as well use that. It was a recently built Pokemon for me. In fact, even during half these battles, I was still one power up away from fully XL maxing this thing, but it is fully powered up now. And obviously I have a rank 9 Shadow JUMPLUFF, so I love using this thing. Using it with the double flying moveset is honestly loads of fun. Great bait potential, acrobatics hits like a truck, and also flying is widely unresisted in the meta currently. Also, Steelix makes a really great core with it, obviously except for fire types, but the most common fire type is Talonflame, which both Steelix and Dusclops can deal with. So without further ado, let's hop into some battles. Okay, in the first match, we've got a Wiggly on the lead. Now, this is a fantastic lead. They're going to get out Credilli. I don't have a fantastic response to Credilli, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to farm up, go for the Psychic Fangs, lower the defense, and then instantly come in with my Dusclops. Now, Dusclops does have a good matchup here because I do have super effective Ice Punches, and even after they've lowered my attack once, because I lowered their defense prior, this will still do the same amount of damage a non-debuff move would do. And as you can see, 2 Rock Tombs aren't enough to KO, and they're not going to be able to Bullet Seed farm me down before I'm able to get the Hex farm down. So my opponent actually makes a really nice play. They pivot back into their Wiggly, and they are going to be able to get a full farm down here before I'm able to reset back out on my Steelix. So they get a KO when I do not, and now it's Wiggly against the Steelix. That being said, this is a great matchup for the Steelix. Even though Charms are still chipping, I am going to go for the Earthquake here. I don't expect my opponent to shield this because it's such a bad matchup, but then they do. So that is a bit of a strange play. And now this could get a little bit awkward. One Icy Wind isn't going to be enough to KO from this range. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go for one more Thunder Fang, go for the Psychic Fangs. I'm going to save my Steelix so that I can reset any debuffs on it later, and then come in with my JUMPLUFF. Now they do have a Furret in the back, which is a pretty good matchup for us. It is going to take, looks like 2 Swifts plus all of the Sucker Punches that it takes to get there in order to get the knockout. So there's no point in me baiting here. I can full send Acrobatics because I have 2 shields. I'm not really worried about it. They do still have a Credilli that's alive, and they just boosted their attacks with Trailblaze. So now this could get a little bit interesting. I am going to fire off the Acrobatics. It's not enough to KO. I try and go for a catch on my Steelix. I'm unsuccessful. Now I'm going to go for an aggressive Fairy Wind farm down on my JUMPLUFF. And I don't quite get it, but they come back in with Credilli. I throw the Aerial Ace before they can make another charge move. That is enough to KO, and now I can make it to another Aerial Ace before they're able to charm me down with the Wiggly, and now it is a 2-turn move versus a 2-turn move, and they get fast move denied because the game is terrible. So what should have been a tie ends up being a win. JUMPLUFF on the lead in the next match. This is a great matchup for the Steelix, especially because most JUMPLUFF are on the double flying moveset now. So Steelix definitely relishing in that. Are they on the double flying moveset? Let's see. No, of course, it's the one JUMPLUFF that is still on Energy Ball. So they're actually not completely walled in this matchup. That being said, assuming they don't get basically 2 Energy Ball debuffs, then I'm pretty much in a very comfortable position here. I believe if it's the Shadow and they get a debuff on the first, then it can get a little bit like close, but we have a good IV on our Steelix. I'm not worried. They come in with a Frost Last, which is good because we needed to bait this out. And then we can just come in with our Dusclops. I'm not worried about one Shadow Ball because Dusclops is insanely bulky. They end up just going for a triple Axle to boost their attack, but we have a great pacing advantage here, so we can just go for the Shadow Punch. Their defense is lowered, so they are going to shield that up. I am going to respect Shadow Ball now at this point because they have boosted their attack, and I can very easily maintain alignment here. So I am just going to go for one in the move, make sure I can get off the Shadow Punch. Shadow Punch is enough to KO. Now, what is that Pokemon in the back? They do not want to show me. Instead, they want to come in with their Jumpluff, get KO'd by an Ice Punch, I guess. Ice Punch does get the knockout. What is that Pokemon in the back? It is a Spiritomb. No point in giving them a free farm down. They can now outpace and make it to a Rock Tomb and lower my attack. But that doesn't matter because these Fairy Winds have already done so much damage. I can now go for an Acrobatics right when I get to like 99 energy. And Acrobatics isn't enough to KO, but 2 Fairy Winds after are, so we are able to take that win. Okay, into the next match, we've got a Thievul. Okay, this is a pretty neutral matchup. Obviously, we can't go for Psychic Fangs in this matchup, and as long as they don't get a boost, we are safe. They do not get a boost on the first, and now we are going to full send the Earthquake because we can live 2 Night Slashes because they didn't get the boost. And that means that we can full send an Earthquake on the CMP tie with the next, and they are unlikely to shield, and they do not, which means we are able to win the zeros. So Steelix comes out with the win, and it's a Corviknight in the back. Now this is a little bit awkward. I can't switch out because JUMPLUFF has an absolutely terrible matchup there, so I let them get the full farm down. I connect at least with 6 Thunderfangs, which is nice, and now I can just come in with my Dusclops, soak up this energy, go for a couple Shadow Punches here. 1 will not be enough to KO, so we'll have to go. Ooh, it looks like 2 won't be enough to KO. Can I live this is the question. I am going to let this go, praying that I live this because I have at least put them into like Acrobatics range at this point. 1 more is not going to be enough. So I switch into my Jumpluff instantly because I thought I could maybe even Fairy Wind farm down the Corviknight from that range, especially because sand attacks are what, triples resisted on Jumpluff, so, and they have a Flygon on the back, so this game is over. I just have to go straight Aerial Ace in this matchup because Flygon is so glassy and these Fairy Winds are already adding up, especially the Shadow. I will respect any 1 charge move here. These Dragon Tails have definitely added up. They've put us pretty much in the same health range as we have with super effective Fairy Winds. So, but we still have a pacing advantage. So we are able to get to a 3rd Aerial Ace, get to the knockout. Now it's Fairy Wind versus Sand Attack. They actually do get to a charge move, but that does not matter because Dusclops still is like 1 fast move away from a charge move, and 1 Hex is actually enough to KO the Corviknight, and we're able to take that win. Steelix in a Dragonite. Okay, this is a fantastic lead. They've got resisted Dragon Breaths, and they're staying in this matchup. We also outpace between... This could be a Breaking Swipe, so my opponent might shield. No, they actually do no shield. It is just the Psychic Fangs. And they do farm up past a potential superpower, so I will respect it. And it is a superpower, and then in comes a Sand Slash. Now, I don't have a good answer for Sand Slash, so what I do is I catch a Drill Run onto my Dusclops, and we are successfully able to do that. And now that should mean I can outpace, but I actually overfarm. They kind of throw an alignment there, which allows me to get at least a free turn of energy. And now I can go for back-to-back Shadow Punches after going for 1 in the move for both. So here comes the first, they shield that. Here comes a second. Are we going to grab a second shield from my opponent is the question. If they do, this could get scary because we have a Jumpluff. So what I do is I actually come in with my Steelix. I could live this if I want, and I do let it go. It's actually just the Ice Punch, and we did get off the Earthquake here, so goodbye, Mr. Sand Slash. And I believe we banked a charge move on our Dusclops as well, which is good because it's a Jellicent in the back, although our Jumpluff will be able to take a Shadow Ball and get to an Aerial Ace no problem. And especially after these Thunderfangs and lowering their defense, we've definitely put them into a range where this is going to be a good matchup. They try and go for a catch or something. I'm not sure what they were doing. Maybe just a reset onto their Dragonite. We're just going to shield this up. It is the Shadow Ball. And now all we have to do is get to an Aerial Ace. 1 more Hex definitely puts them in Aerial Ace range. And we are able to pick up the knockout and take that win. Okay. Into next match, we've got Dunspars on the lead. Wow, a bit of a relic. I haven't seen many Dunsparses, to be completely honest. But we are going to just farm up. They decide to throw an alignment for some reason. There's absolutely no reason to throw an alignment when you're the Dunspars in this situation. All you're doing is giving a free Thunderfang in. That being said, I am able to get to the Earthquake because of that. So I appreciate that opponent, and we are able to connect with that, which is nice. They're able to make it to a second drill run and then some, so they actually might still be able to outpace, which is pretty annoying. But I can get to a Psychic Fangs. This won't be enough to KO. I'm forced to throw an alignment because they would get to a charge move, and they actually live on 1 HP, which is unfortunate. So maybe go for the Psychic Fangs and then the Earthquake next time. Either way, I come in with my Dusclops because I'm like, you know what? May as well get a nice energy lead. But they actually preserve their Dunspars on 1 HP. Don't want to give up that farm down to the Dusclops. I'm able to get to another Shadow Punch against this Azu. But now I'm worried it's a Talonflame in the back, because that used to be a common line. It was Dunsparce, Azu, Talon, and I really do not want my Jumpluff to see this Talon. So what am I going to do here? I'm probably going to connect with a Shadow Punch, maybe force them to throw some energy. No, instead they're going to catch, and it is a Talonflame. So this could get a little bit scary. And I'm going to make a bit of a controversial play. I'm going to come with my Jumpluff. I'm going to build up to the Acrobatics and now bait with the Aerial Ace. This is a bit of a risky play, but it does work out. I grab the shield from my opponent, and now at this point, I'm just going to go straight Aerial Ace. I am the Shadow. We've already chipped them a little bit with Hexes and Shadow Punches, but that's still not enough to KO. And now this is awkward because they do throw right away, and that is enough to KO, but now it's Incinerates versus Hexes, and it looks like the Incinerates are just doing way too much damage. That being said, Dusclops is super bulky, and we have insane pacing. They do make it to an Azu. They are finally able to grab this shield from my Dusclops. We now have 0 shields remaining. I'm going to overfarm here. I'm going to go farm up to back-to-back charge moves, and now it's just about which Pokemon do they come in with. If it's the Dunsparce, I'm going to farm down. If it's the Talon, I'm going to go for 1 in the move. It is the Talon. This allows me to go for 1 and the charge move. They do shield that up, but I'm 1 more away, and that will not register because it's 3 versus 5, which means I click the charge move on 4. That an Incinerate doesn't go through. We get the Hex farm down of the Dunsparce before their rollout goes through. Or it does go through, but it isn't enough to KO, and we're actually able to take that win off of the back of Dusclops with a 1v3 sweep. Credilli on the lead. In the next match, this is a neutral-ish lead, especially when Credilli goes for a Rock Tomb. As Credilli, you want to go for Grass Knot here because it's neutral, not double resisted. They end up coming in with a Marowak, which is definitely not a safe switch. It can be a safe switch, but they do have Rock Slide. It looks like 2 will just not be enough to KO. So I may as well full send. There's no point in baiting because I have Acrobatics, and they do shield that up. So that could make this matchup a little bit interesting. But once again, we saw Rock Slide doesn't even do 50%. They have no ability to farm down here. Mud Slap, it's a hard-hitting fast move, but guess what? It is triple resisted, and Jumpluff is bulky as hell. So I'm going to connect with a second Acrobatics. They still do not throw their energy, allowing me to get to a third Acrobatics. And at this point, they're going to have to throw some energy, or they're going to lose this matchup. And guess what? If this is a Bone Club, yeah, Jumpluff lives this. That does no damage to the Jumpluff. I'm also able to live the Mud Slap after and get to an Aerial Ace. So we grabbed both shields and are able to maintain switch while not using a single one of our own. That is how dominant the matchup is there. That, ladies and gentlemen, is why you want Acrobatics, not Energy Ball. Energy Ball doesn't change anything in that matchup, besides maybe getting a defense drop. Acrobatics is just such a hard-hitting move that it really just doesn't matter. Energy Ball may have KO'd instantly instead of the Acrobatics leaving it on 1 HP, but it didn't matter because I was still able to live that Bone Club and make it to an Aerial Ace. So either way, they have a Clodsire in the back. I've played this matchup before, so I know that 1 Earthquake is not enough to KO. However, after the Psychic Fangs, it is enough to KO because it lowers their defense. Psychic Fangs is also super effective. So Earthquake now connects. It still isn't enough to KO because they're on like full HP. But after like the Thunder Fangs, usually it's enough to KO. Typically, they are able to get the Earthquake off. I can just get the full farm down here. This is only enough for a Sludge Bomb, so I can let this go, especially because they have a charge move, I think, banked on their Credilli, and they do. I click the move, but I lose CMP. I'm just going to shield this up. It's the only charge move left for my opponent. Here comes a super effective Ice Punch on your 1 HP Credilli. That KOs. And now, why not just get the Hex farm down as the timer counts down, and we're able to take that win. Sandslash on the lead. Oof, this is a tough lead, especially because it's the Shadow, which means a Drill Run plus an Ice Punch maybe KO, or 2 Drill Runs. I'm not really sure, I don't remember. But it doesn't matter because we outpace. So if they full send a Drill Run, that means I make it to the Earthquake 1 turn before they make it to that Ice Punch. And if they do not respect it, the Earthquake KOs a Sandslash, and we are able to take Switch just like that. That is the benefit of using a surprise nuke on Steelix, because no one really expects the Earthquake, and they don't really know the counts for Earthquake, because no one typically uses it. That being said, they come in with a Azu and get an energy lead, which is awkward, because that forces me to come in with Dusclops, and that also forces me to get 1 turn lag, so great play by my opponent. Just kidding, that was on Scopely. Now I'm going to overfarm here, play to the CMP tie, but no, they're actually going to make a catch on a Wiggly, catching a double resisted Shadow Punch. Now this is going to be a hard end game to play out of. We might have to start pulling out some baits. This is just a Swift, but I do still have to respect this damage. That's actually a really nice play by my opponent, not even needing to farm up to the Icy Wind. I am going to full send the Acrobatics because I don't want my opponent to call this bait, and now I'm going to go for another Acrobatics because it looks like I can get to 3 before they can get to 3 charge moves or get the full farm down of me. Either I just kind of have to be wary of a catch. They do throw right before I get there, and I know if I shield this, they're going to try and snipe with their Azu. So I shield, and then I instantly switch, but my opponent makes a brilliant play, and they actually stay in this matchup. It was a true 50-50 call. I had to make that guess. But now that's going to put me in a really awkward situation. I can get to the Shadow Punch, and they do come back in with the Azum roll, so that might give me a potential win condition in this matchup. They are going to throw their energy, and they are going to be pretty much energy dry after this Ice Beam connects. So I am going to overfarm here. I'm going to throw the Aerial Ace because they are in Aerial Ace range. We are the Shadow. This should be enough to KO. And 1 HP on the Wiggly, but we don't care. We're going to full send the Acrobatics for a little bit of BM. And Acrobatics from this range 100% will KO the Wiggly, and we're able to take that win. Steelix into Tinkaton in the next match. So this is a great lead, assuming they're not on Bulldoze. If they are on Bulldoze, this could get a little bit awkward, but they get out of this matchup, and then they come in with Credilli. So I'm going to do the same thing I did in that last matchup. I'm going to chip with a Psychic Fangs, lower that defense, and then come in with my Dusclops, just to make this matchup a little bit more convincing. And I do want to maintain Switch if I can, because Steelix does typically wall Heavy Slam plus the Play Rough in this matchup. So it is a good matchup for us. They do let that Ice Punch connect, which means I can definitely let this second Rock Tomb go through, and I am going to overfarm here, going for the Ice Punch right before they make it to their next Rock Tomb. This will be enough to KO, and if they do let this go, I will also make it to a Shadow Punch against their Tinkaton, but they actually come in with a Feraligatr. So Feraligatr is going to be met with a Shadow Punch, and I'm going to instantly pivot into my Steelix. Why? Because I cannot concede that farm down. If I concede that farm down, that gives them way too much of an energy lead to either threaten my Steelix with Hydro Cannon or my Jumpluff with Ice Beam. So by instantly pivoting, I can get these super effective Thunder Fangs off. I can even throw the Psychic Fangs before they make it to their second Hydro to at least grab a shield back, and I can double shield my Steelix knowing that these are the only super effective charge moves coming my way. And now, assuming I resist everything on my opponent's moveset here, which I do as they expose the Heavy Slam, that means I am not worried about absolutely anything. Jumpluff can probably sit this one out. I'm just going to full send the Earthquake. They're not going to shield that because they know this game is already wraps. So they just resign the match, and I'm able to take that win. Steelix on the lead into the Lapras. This is an okay lead. We resist the Psy Waves. They come in with the Clodsire, and we do meet them with our Ghost, so resisting the Poison Sting, but obviously taking neutral damage from the Earthquakes, and it just barely looks like 2 Earthquakes will not be enough to KO, and that's why it's really important that a lot of these Pokemon you do have the XLs on. It does make a difference, especially for these really bulky Pokemon that just barely kind of get to that CP cap. It's really important for them. As you're going to notice, it looks like it's going to take 3 Ice Punches to KO, and these Poison Stings from the Clodsire have put me in the yellow. But look at that. Because I have good IVs on my Dusclops, I'm able to live a second Earthquake. They have no ability to farm down, because their Poison Sting is resisted, and that means I can go for an Ice Punch when this Pangoro comes in. So they do expose their last Pokemon. I'm just going to let my Dusclops go down because I have a great matchup in Jumpluff here. And these Fairy Winds are double super effective. Pangoro is so glassy. I did get one turn lag, but realistically, that's not going to matter in this matchup. Once Night Slash connects, they actually get a boost. Okay, so maybe it might matter if they can get to a third, but we instantly pivot at the exact same time. I read my opponent like a book. I do not want to give them an energy lead, so I'm going to connect with these Psychic Fangs, and now I just have to basically shield one Sparkling Aria. I can live one, so I'm going to let one go. I want to make sure I save my shields for absolutely when I need them. I am now going to connect with another Psychic Fangs. They are going to start shielding up as well, but at this point I'm just going to shield back. I'm going to match shields here. Even if they're able to outpace here, it does not matter. They actually come back in with their Pangoro only to get Fairy Wind farm down, and I will take that matchup. Into the final battle of the video, we've got another Wiggly on the lead. This is a fantastic lead. They get out in the Mana Buzz, immediately exposing that they are very weak to the Thunderfang Steelix. Unfortunately, I don't have a charge move for the Mana Buzz, so I just go for all those Thunderfangs and then I pivot into my Jumpluff because I have super effective Fairy Winds. We've already chipped them nearly into the yellow, so I can overfarm here. I can let two Aerial Aces go, no problem, and now this means they're energy dry. So all I have to do is go for the Acrobatics. I do overfarm over 100 energy here, which is a little bit of a mistake. I should have just thrown one in the move, but I wasn't sure if it would KO from this range. It actually doesn't quite, but I get the Fairy Wind farm down, which is nice. They're going to come back in with a Wiggly. I don't expect them to shield this because they already have poor alignment with their Steelix. So I do full send the Acrobatics. And they actually catch a Aerial Ace onto their Swampert. So I believe that Mudshot going through will not KO because it is triple resisted. So we're actually able to save the Jumpluff and pivot into our Dusclops. Sludge is resisted here, so they have to go for Hydros. Not that they wouldn't. In comes one Hydro. It looks like two of those won't even KO. However, if I grab a shield from my opponent, I will just match shields because I may as well keep my Dusclops healthy. They do shield and then they throw one in the move, so I'm just going to shield back. Sticking to my game plan here, just matching shields, and I will have a pacing advantage here. Back in comes the Wiggly. I'm able to burn the switch clock by going for an Ice Punch, and now I can align my Steelix onto their Wiggly, get the full Thunderfang farm down. Even if this is an Icy Wind, I can tank this no problem. It is just the Swift, and at this point, this game is over, and my opponent realizes this, so they just resign the match. But yeah, that is the new rank 1 Pokemon, Shadow Jumpluff with double flying moveset. I mean, this thing, we've seen it before with different coverage, but the double flying moveset is absolutely incredible on this Pokemon. I highly, highly recommend it. I do think it's a higher level of play. So if you're not at a play where you're totally comfortable with counts or understanding when to bait and when not to, or win conditions, or knowing when you can survive charge moves, like Jumpluff is a very technical Pokemon to master, but using the right hands, it is extremely dominant. And team building wise, it can be a little bit difficult to team build around, but honestly, you can copy any teams I use with Jumpluff. Most of them are pretty safe. I'm very well aware of what the meta looks like, at least in my range, and across most ELO, so I do know how to team build around this Pokemon, but I've also used it before it was even meta. Previously in like the Lantern meta, I would use Dunspar and Jumpluff then before they were even buffed, which is crazy to think about now. But yeah, that's going to be it for me from this video. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, peace.